We're also challenged in the Indo-Asia-Pacific by an aggressive China and a revanchist Russia, neither of whom seem to respect the international agreements they've signed on to. For instance, the arbitral tribunal in The Hague ruled last year that China's so-called 9-line claim is illegal under the Law of the Sea Convention. Despite being a signatory to the convention, China ignored this legally binding peaceful arbitration. In fact, China continues a methodical strategy to control the South China Sea. I testified last year that China was militarizing this critical international waterway and the airspace above it by building air and naval bases on 7 Chinese man-made islands in the disputed Spratlys. Despite subsequent Chinese assurances that they would not militarize these bases, today they now have facilities that support long-range weapons emplacements, fighter aircraft hangars, radar towers, and barracks for troops. China's militarization of the South China Sea is real. I'm also not taking my eyes off Russia, which just last week flew bomber missions near Alaska on successive days for the first time since 2014. Russia continues to modernize its military and exercise its considerable conventional and nuclear forces in the Pacific. We must be ready to confront all challenges from a position of strength and with credible combat power. So I ask this committee to support continued investment to improve our military capabilities. I need weapon systems of increased lethality, precision, speed, and range that are networked and cost-effective. And restricting ourselves with funding uncertainties reduces warfighting readiness, so I urge the Congress to repeal sequestration and to approve the proposed Defense Department budget.
I'd like to hone in the questions on China some more and also readiness. So China has been investing in several next-generation military technologies, including hypersonic missiles, directed energy weapons, autonomous weapons systems, and space-based weapons. Now, are you concerned about the progress China is making in its development of these technologies, and how can the United States maintain its edge?
Without going into classified, I'll answer yes to all of that. I am very concerned about their developments in these systems, particularly hypersonics. What we can do is to develop our own hypersonic weapons and improve our defenses against theirs. One of the problems we have, though, is this INF treaty issue before. So hypersonics, that could match the Chinese weapons would be precluded by the INF. So we're precluded from developing land-based weapons that can match the Chinese land-based weapons by treaty. In my concern, so the INF treaty doesn't affect China's weapons development or any other country's weapons development, with the exception of ours and Russia's, because they're not signatories to the treaty. It's a bilateral treaty signed in 1985 during a bipolar world, us and the Soviet Union, and then now Russia and some of the republics that have come out from that. The treaty not only governs nuclear weapons, but also conventional weapons in the ballistic missile and the ballistic and cruise missile regimes. And that's what I'm worried about. So I'm worried about Chinese weapons and what we're going to do about it. So we can't stop the Chinese from developing weapons that run counter to INF because they're not a signatory to INF. But we can't develop weapons that can match those because we are a signatory to it, and we follow it like you'd expect America to follow a treaty to the letter.
On another topic, I strongly believe that multilateral exercises with our partners and allies are critical to achieving a unified front in the face of some of our more aggressive and challenging adversaries, whether they be in the Indo-Asia-Pacific region, in the EUCOM arena, or elsewhere. Now, unfortunately, we constantly hear that these exercises are at increasing risk of being canceled due to budget constraints and uncertainty. What lessons do you fear we risk losing if we're unable to work with our allies? And will these partnering countries seek or be approached by other powerful nations in the region to fill the void that the U.S. leaves?
Yeah, clearly, the exercises are important on a number of levels. For those countries that are our military peers, the high-end militaries in the region, Japan, Korea, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, these are high-end militaries that that we need to exercise with, because we might be in a position to have to rely on them for some operation, or they might be in a position to rely on us for some operation. And if we don't know how to work with them, then it'll be unproductive in the early days. And then there are countries that seek to be better, and exercises with us and countries like us are desired. If we can't provide that level of exercise support, then other countries will step in and do that in lieu of us. And when I say other countries, that's a euphemism for China. And so China will step in, and they will become, or they will try to become, the security partner of choice, if you will, for countries that we are their security partner of choice today.